I want to welcome everybody, and today I'm going to talk about the Satipatthana Sutta and mindfulness of the body. And not only talk about it, but a decent portion of this talk will be a guided meditation. First of all, it's from the Satipatthana Sutta. And the Satipatthana Sutta has as its goal, clearly stated in here, and let me read it to you. Monks, this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of dukkha and discontent, for acquiring the true method, for the realization of nirvana, namely the four satipatthanas. And let me go through a couple of the terms. I use the word dukkha, and that is translated often as suffering, but it has a much broader meaning, and dukkha is a better word to use, but it's unsatisfactoriness. When things just aren't going right, you don't feel good in the morning. What's wrong with the world? Unsatisfactoriness and discontent. So the goal of this practice that I'm teaching, or that the Buddha taught and that I'm relaying to you, is about getting relaxed, getting calm, have a sense of well-being. And the realization of nirvana, to be enlightened, is have a sense of equanimity no matter what goes on. So you have the mental discipline that no matter how bad things are, no matter what's going wrong, you still have a sense of well-being. It's the goal of the Satipatthana Sutta. And there's an expression in English, hitch your wagon to a star. You know, if you want to go places, have high aspirations, go for it. Now, the Satipatthana Sutta is designed to make us all fully enlightened human beings to reach nirvana. I am not fully enlightened, but I have noticed as I meditate more and more, it really has made a significant impact to my own happiness. I just feel much more relaxed, much more peaceful, and I'm less likely to get in an argument. And the skills that it's teaching in the four foundations of mindfulness are essentially meditation, mindfulness skills. And in he talks about the four foundations in the goal. What are the four foundations? And I'll read directly from the text and then give a summary. Here, monks, in the regard to the body, a monk abides contemplating the body, diligent, clearly knowing, and mindful, free from desire and discontent. So one of the four foundations is the body. And we'll go into more detail on it, but it's knowing whether you're breathing in, when you're breathing out, when you're breathing long, when you're breathing slow, when your nose itches, every aspect of your body, clearly knowing what's going on in your body moment by moment. Second one is feelings. And in this case, the word feelings isn't being used the way we do in English, but feelings is either pleasant or unpleasant. So in regard to feelings, he abides contemplating feelings diligently, clearly knowing and mindful, free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. And if we really could, every moment of the day, know when we feel pleasant or unpleasant, we know we've been triggered. We can decrease the chances that we'll be reactive. And the same sentence repeats for the mind and for dhammas. And later on, we'll talk about these. So there are four places, 4 pastures to contemplate. It's the body, the feelings, and the mind. And when we're contemplating each and every one of these, whether it's the body, feelings, or mind, we're diligent. We are determined. We're ardent. We're going to do this. We're locked and loaded. This is what we want to accomplish. Clearly knowing when we're breathing in or breathing out, we know it. We feel the sensations in our nostrils and know it. When we're mindful or unmindful, we know it. And mindful is the ability to wake up when your mind gets cluttered with thoughts. You're mindful, you're aware of what you're aware of. When you are thinking, mindfulness is the awareness that tells you you are thinking. There's nothing wrong with thinking. We have to do it. But when you're aware and can say, oh, I am thinking, I'm being carried away by thoughts, that's the skill that lets you know that you're lost in thoughts is mindfulness. And what's your attitude throughout the day? Being free from desire and discontent. You have a sense of well-being. Things are going okay. I have no desires. I'm content with what I have. The benefit of doing this is nirvana. And nirvana is a state being free from desire and discontent. So in this way, the path is the goal. What we're practicing when we sit down in meditation is focusing on our breath in a way that's free from desire and discontent. So that when we get up all throughout the day, we'll be free from desire and discontent. And one of the things happens when your mind wanders and you're trying, dedicated to being mindful, when your mind wanders, you tend to blame yourself or get angry with yourself. It's okay. That's what minds do. They wander. But you're practicing no matter what goes on, whether you feel anger, you notice angry. Maybe it's not good to be angry, but to be angry at yourself for being angry only exacerbates the problem. So the goal is to be free from desire and discontent. And this is directly from the sutta, and this is kind of abbreviated form, but breathing in long, he knows I breathe in long. Breathing out long, he knows I breathe out long. Breathing out short, he knows I'm breathing out short. Breathing out short, I shall breathe in experiencing the whole body. I shall breathe out experiencing the whole body. I shall breathe in calming the bodily functions. We breathe all day long. And we never notice it, usually because we're lost in thought. What he is saying here is essentially, if you can maintain mindfulness continuously and know when you're breathing in and breathing out, you won't be thinking. You won't have the ruminations. You won't have the dissatisfaction. So his way to liberation is to just be in the present moment. And if the only thing you can focus on is your breath, focus on it. And the refrain, in this way, in regard to the body, he abides contemplating the body internally, and he abides contemplating the body externally, or he abides contemplating the body both internally and externally. Well, what he is saying here is we notice that we're breathing in and breathing out. We notice what's happening with our emotions, what's happening with our mind. When we are with other people, external, they are not us, they're external to us. If we observe what's happening to them, we can relate to them because we know what it feels like to get angry. We know what it feels like to have desire. We know what these things are like, and when we can see that in other people. So we watch what other people, be really sensitive to facial expressions, their facial expressions and ours. When you notice someone rolling their eyes, noticing externally what they're doing with the body, You know how offensive it is. You say something and they roll their eyes. When you notice that and how you feel, it gives you insight into how to make sure that you don't do the same type of thing. When you're walking, know that you're walking. When you're standing, know that you're standing. When you're sitting, know you're sitting. When you're lying down, know you're lying down. Essentially, whatever posture you have, whatever your breath is, you're aware of it. When going forward and returning, he acts clearly knowing. When looking ahead and looking away, he acts clearly knowing. Fixing and extending, when wearing his robes, consuming food, when walking, standing, falling asleep. Whatever you're doing, you know what you're doing. You're in the present moment. So this may seem overwhelming. It's walking, thinking, it's what you're flexing or wearing your robes, consuming food, whatever you're doing. But the point is, there are 4 foundations of mindfulness: the body, feelings, and the mind, and the dhammas. If you can just be in the present moment all the time, you're going to have a sense of calmness and completion. He abides contemplating the nature of arising, of passing away, of both arising and passing away in the body. We all know about impermanence. We're not going to live forever. And if you take a multiple choice test and someone asks you, will you live forever? You'll say, no, I don't think so. Do good things last forever? You take a multiple choice test, you'll say, no, they don't. But I know for myself, it may not be with you. When my house flooded, that's not supposed to happen to me. That's a bad thing. I'm shocked by it. Whenever there's a traffic jam, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Things are impermanent. And one of the things I've seen as I meditate is I can be completely content, and then all of a sudden, some complex gets triggered, thought goes in my head, and I'm completely calm, get completely angry. When I realize I'm completely angry, I go back to my body, focus on the body, and the anger goes away. And then it comes back. All these things are changing. But when anger is there, it doesn't have to last forever, particularly if you can refocus on your body. We're going to do a guided meditation shortly. And these are what I hope are some helpful hints. There's a cartoon, mindful or mindful. It's a play on words, M-I-N-D space F-U-L-L, or mindful, one word. To the left, what is a problem I face and many people face is you're out for a walk, it's a beautiful day with trees, and instead, all my attention is lost. Why did he say to this? Why is the world the way it is? What's wrong? We're lost in thoughts, in images, ruminations, and whatever. Being mindful is the ability to notice that's what's happening to you. And bring your attention back, and in the picture on the right, there are trees there. That is the reality, not what's going on in your head. And mindfulness draws us back into reality. So I've read the sutra to you, but now when we're meditating, and we're going to be doing it shortly, be diligent. And what I'm saying here is I'm going to be having you breathe long, slow, and deep. Then you'll take a short pause between breathing in again. That pause between taking your next breath. And during this guided meditation, I'll ask you, are you really determined to stay focused on the breath? Are you really diligent? Or you might remember, if you're not in a guided meditation, when you're going to your next breath, about to breathe in, Well, am I really serious about paying attention? Diligent. What are you diligent about? You have a clear intention to focus your mind on something. In the case of what we'll be doing, it'll be focused on the breath. So you're diligent, you have clear intention, you're paying attention to your nostrils or whatever you're focusing on when you're breathing. So you're diligent, have a clear intention to pay attention, and you know exactly where you're paying attention to. Then when you pay attention, you might be paying attention to the nostril awareness, clearly knowing what that felt sense of the breath is. You really feel it. And as this goes on, you begin to feel more and more relaxed. You have an attitude free from desire and discontent. So this is taken directly from the sutta. And what I'm going to ask you to do is not necessarily forget this, but focus when you're breathing and ask to focus on your breath. Don't try and consciously repeat this and think it. Don't get lost in thought. Oh, he said diligent, now clear information. And the whole time you're talking to yourself. That's not going to work out. And John Gillette had a question many sessions ago, and this is exactly what can be confusing about what I'm telling you. You're really trying to focus on your breath, but every once in a while, you'll be mindful of what's going on, and you can really check in with yourself. And these are things to think about. And when I do the guided meditation, over periods of time, I'll mention one, then another of it, so you don't have to trigger it. So when we're doing the meditation, try and get all your attention on the breath. And then I might interrupt with a guide to say, well, are you really diligent? Are you really feeling the sensation? And there's some more helpful hints, and there are a whole bunch of them. I'm going to read them to you. I don't want to have too many words up. I think it can be confusing. But when I finish reading these to you or describing them to you, then I'll go over the foils that'll be in your handout. I have read chapters about what mindfulness is. It's the ability to focus. It's the ability to, when your mind wanders, to bring it back. There are a whole bunch of descriptions of it. But I want to give you an experiential description of mindfulness and see if you ever notice this, the feeling of mindfulness. When you are meditating, you're supposed to be focusing on your breath. Your mind will wander. And I will purposely leave a long gap where your mind will likely wander, because that's what minds do. I'll leave that gap. But the second you realize that your mind has wandered, it's a feeling like you've woken up. You see reality as exactly is. And that's the goal, to cultivate this skill of being able to be self-reflective and see what's actually going on and wake up to what's actually going on. When you wake up, it's a kind, non-judging. I'm thinking. Just say, oh, I'm thinking, I shouldn't have done it. Notice your attitude when that mindfulness triggers in. It's kind, it's compassionate, non-judging. My mind got lost. I need to refocus. A misconception is that when we meditate, all thoughts will go away and we're bad meditators until it goes away. That's not true. The goal is to be aware of the thoughts. They'll always keep coming. And why is it important to be aware of the thoughts is once you're aware of your thinking, you might be solving the greatest mathematical problem in the history of mankind, keep on thinking. But you may be ruminating something you've told yourself 1,000 times. Then you make a decision. So awareness gives you the opportunity to make a skillful or unskillful decision, a wholesome or unwholesome decision, but not until you're aware that something's going on in your head. Otherwise, you're owned by the thought, you're owned by the anger, you're owned by the emotion. Awareness decouples you from that thought, frees you from that thought, and gives you a chance to act appropriately. One of the things, if you're a new meditator, as you get better and better at it, you'll notice your mind wanders. You'll notice when your mind wanders a lot more quickly. And so in meditative sitting, you'll see my mind wandered, I brought back my mind wandered. And before you became mindful, you'd sit there mindless for a whole session and say, well, I only had one thought. Well, it lasted for 30 minutes. But if you get better at this, it's 30 seconds or 5 seconds, and it keeps happening, you notice it, and you'll feel that you're not doing good, but you're actually getting better. So that's the notes per minute. Another thing that can be helpful, not only when you're meditating, but you're just walking around. When you have this strange thought, ruminating comes to you, a question that'll break down and decrease the energy of whatever ruminating thought you have is, how long have I had it? When did I start thinking away about it? How much energy is it? Where do I feel it in? So what you become is an objective observer of the ruminating thought, wondering how long it lasts, and it loses energy by that kind of detachment. When you're meditating and watching the breath, it can seem really boring. You got to get really curious about it. The most subtle and difficult form for me for watching the breath is when I'm breathing very subtly just through my nostrils. And it is really strange how it's different parts of the nostril in each breath get triggered. It's like it's a left nostril to right nostril breath, or a right nostril, or it's swirling around. But if you really pay attention and get really curious about it, you'll notice that it changes from breath to breath. Also, if you ever get bored, and that used to happen to me all the time, and this is the trick that got me out of boredom. I notice whenever I'm bored, I'm not meditating. I am not putting my full attention on the breath. I'm not curious about the breath. I've stopped focusing, and I get to think, and I have no desire to go back and do the hard work of focusing on my breath. But if you're bored, you're not really paying attention. You're not really focusing. You're not getting that felt sense. Another thing to notice, be curious about, is how vivid are those feelings? Does it change from breath to breath? Other thing is to be granular. Can you know the beginning of the in-breath, the middle of the in-breath, the end of the in-breath? And I'm talking about all these things. We're going to have a long meditation, and almost every one of these things I'll be giving you while you're trying to focus, because it isn't an intellectual exercise. It's an experience I want you to have, and a skill I want you to build. I'm hoping you can build, and you need to experience it for yourself. And I'll roll by these. Again, it's going to be in your handouts, but you can read it. And now I want to give you a quote by Suzuki Roshi. Suppose you're facing a difficult situation. You don't know what to do. The best thing to do is to sit in a meditative posture until you can accept things as they are. And I want to elaborate on this. I have really been in situations where I felt I was offended, belittled, or whatever. And I was very angry. And I didn't know what to do. And I really did meditate for a long period of time until I was relaxed. And when I was relaxed, there's some inner wisdom in me that could guide me what to do next. The specific situation, someone had been, I felt, insulted me in front of other people, but I had made a mistake. And part of the problem was I made a mistake. And what I needed to do is, instead of trying to get revenge to the person who pointed it out to everybody, is to make sure I don't make more mistakes. And I was able to relax. And instead of messing up the relationship, I still have a good relationship with that person. And it really was my fault. I had made a mistake. But it is strange. We want to solve the problem right away. Our tendency is to got to do something when something goes wrong. No, what we got to do is calm our minds and bodies before we do anything. And that's why just our ability to focus on the body can be enough to lead to enlightenment, nirvana. So what I would like to do now is actually take you through a guided meditation. It's probably going to be fairly long. And your primary task is going to be to focus on your breath for most of this. And it'll be a guided meditation, because every once in a while I'll ask you to check on things that lead to a skillful meditation. So what I'd like you to do now is find a posture that you feel comfortable with. For me, it's with my feet flat on the ground. I sometimes put my hand in a mudra. I like this at some times. I like this mudra at other times. Or you can just put your hands on your knees. And allow your eyes to gently close. And I start out every one of my meditations with something that triggers the relaxation response. And what I'd like you to do, a very simple technique, is start counting from 1 to 3. Breathe in to the count of 3. Breathe out to the count of 3. And then after you've done it several times, slowly increase the count so you're breathing a little bit more deeply than you were the time before. Continue to increase, don't go beyond 10. Breathing long slow and deep. Counting as you breathe in, counting as you breathe out. Triggers a relaxation response, decreases your heart rate, decreases your blood pressure, and can lead to a sense of calmness. Breathe as deeply as you can without straining. Continue counting. And now continue to breathe deeply. But get a felt sense of the breath wherever you feel the breath most vividly. Some people like to focus on the nostrils. Some people focus on the chest, rising and falling. Some people focus on the navel. Continue counting, continue breathing, and get a felt sense of your breath. And now drop the counting, just breathing deeply with a felt sense of the breath. And now breathe normally. Continue the felt sense of the breath. And for each breath, know when you're breathing in, know when you're breathing out. Clearly knowing when you're breathing in, clearly knowing when you're breathing out. Are you being diligent? Are you really trying to keep your mind focused? Knowing you're breathing in, know when you're breathing out. Doing this diligently. Are you really paying attention as you're breathing? Focus your full attention on the sensations of the breath, wherever you feel it most vividly, the nostrils, the chest, or the navel. Are you really paying attention? Do you feel your breath vividly? Was this breath more vivid or less vivid than the previous one? Eventually, there'll be a wave of experience. It could be a thought or emotion. When you become aware of it, that instant that you're aware of it is a felt sense of mindfulness. Mindfulness wakes you up from the thought, brings you back to getting in the present moment felt sensation. Next time your mind wanders, notice what that feeling is like of mindfulness. Now continue to focus on the in-breath and the out-breath. See if you can find out, when does your mind wander, on the in-breath or on the out-breath? Next time it wanders, Do you notice if the wandering is in the in-breath or in the out-breath? Are you calm, peaceful, free from desire and discontent? For each breath, can you notice the beginning, the middle, the end of each breath? Each in-breath of each out-breath? Now smile. Start repeating to yourself, thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank you for your presence. Thank you for your smiles. Thank you for your quotes. Thank you for your humor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May you be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May you always meet with spiritual success. May you also have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable problems, difficulties, and failures in life. May you rise above them with morality, integrity, forgiveness, compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom. And thank you for sharing your time with me today.